Imposter syndrome. Yeah, that's a thing for a lot of people where you're like, okay, like I think I'm good, but oh my God, maybe I'm not qualified. Oh, maybe I'm just a fraud. Maybe I'm scamming. Maybe the list goes on with imposter syndrome. And I wanted to make sure that we cover this topic because this is something that I want you to shake because you deserve everything that you get and you deserve to celebrate every single second of that.
Check it out.
Hey, everybody, and welcome back to the Positivity Xperience. It is your girl, Lori. I had the best weekend before I jump into the whole imposter syndrome thing. But I mean, I guess in a way it kind of goes hand in hand. But I got to go with my friend is the mom of the backup quarterback of my most favorite team for 50 some years is Cooper Rush. And we got to go VIP, Paul, like the four of us. We went, we had field passes. I was on the field. I got to live my best life as a Dallas Cowboy cheerleader for the unofficial one on the side. And I ended up getting on ABC Sports, like ABC News, which was great. And it was just great. Like he zoomed in and zoomed out, and something that I'd always wanted to be. I tried out for back in the day, the Redskinettes and the Ravenettes, not because I love that team, but because it's local. So did that. And then we were in a suite and it was just great. The night before I had dinner, got to meet Cooper. Very, very nice guy. He brought me an actual ball. Like it was so great. And I was thinking about this imposter syndrome topic anyway. I mean, I was doing it anyway, it's scheduled. But I was like, for some people it'd be like, wow, do I even belong here? Like, but I do. I mean, granted, I got there because I know somebody. It's not like I got there on my own recognizance, but I do deserve to be there. And this is where a lot of times people falter and they think that in some ways they're just lucky, and we are not going to do that, but we're going to unbox that. And over on the Patreon, remember this year you're getting really in-depth worksheets and it's going to go into some actionable steps that you can take and questions, really serious questions to ask yourself in it. So if that's your jam, jump on over to Patreon. That's patreon.com/the Positivity Xperience, or click on the link in the show description, which is the show notes, and you'll be able to get it right there. And then you'll be able to have access to that and every one that we did before then. So, but I want to talk to you about this imposter syndrome thing because there's a lot that comes into it, right? It's not just like, oh, I don't know that I'm qualified enough, or I don't know if I'm like a fraud, and am I never going to be good enough? And no. There's a lot more that goes into that. So first I want to give you a couple reasons as to where that happens, because everybody's like, well, where does it start? Well, we always know that perfectionism is going to be the doom and gloom of 95% of the things that you're not accomplishing. Because in perfectionism, you have this level of high standards, right? Where you think that if I can't go, now some of it, by the way, I think was really kind of ingrained in us by the people before us, like our generation before us, or the people who raised us. Well, if you can't do it right, don't do it at all. That's the worst advice on the planet. No, how about just do the best you can at the time that you have it, like the best you can. That's it. That's plenty. The problem is that a lot of times you're taught, hey, you got to do it right. Well, there is not always a right. There's a right way for you sometimes. So sometimes there's a way that no process, but you learn it and you execute it. The problem is that you want it to be like, you want to be the top of your class. You want to be the number one. Listen, calm down with that. It's not real. Perfectionism is fake. And there is such a high level of insecurity in perfectionism. I want to be liked. I want to be validated. I want to see that everything else in my life might be falling apart. But if I make sure that everything is right, and you get a lot of this in OCD, right? Where you get a lot of this is like exactly how I want it, because in every other area of your life, sometimes you feel out of control. So perfectionism, we know why it's there, but this is huge with imposter syndrome, because you never think that just going into something, being good enough, and still working on it, but also just being good enough is enough, but you don't look at it that way, right? And so part of the reason there is perfectionism. Now, there's another thing, which is attributional factors. So you say, I was just lucky. No, I mean, luck, it looks like luck. Yes, it may look lucky to the eyeballs. There is a special alignment as far as a universal energy. So this is what I tell people all the time. Stop trying to get the perfect relationship. Well, again, no perfectionism. Stop trying to get the guy or the person. Stop trying to get the job. Stop trying to have the $90 million in the account. I mean, I'm not telling you not to work towards it, but stop trying. You're pushing it away. What you run to, you're chasing it. Bye-bye. And the thing with that is you're still coming from a place of lack. Because if you're chasing, you're coming from a place of lack. So anyway, a lot of times it's classic in dating. You're single for a while. You're like, oh God, I'm so single, which good. That's fine. But then you're like, I don't understand. Like, I can't get somebody. Then you start dating somebody and like 98,000 people come out of the woodwork. And you're like, well, where the hell were you guys at? Well, because you're not trying, right? You're just not. And so when you stop trying, keep trying, but stop obsessively trying, things start to fall into play. Or you say, well, such and such helped me through it. So, I didn't accomplish that. No, you did. You still accomplished it. I tell that to people all the time. They're like, oh, you've helped me so much. And I receive it. Thank you so much. All I'm doing is giving you tools. I'm not making you utilize them. You're still doing the work. And, you see that with like teachers. We all have like a favorite teacher. Mine was my 4th grade teacher, Miss Tidmore. Everybody has a favorite teacher. I swear. I think they do. And at least everybody I've talked to, I should say. And, she made a big impact on me. Yes, she absolutely did. She was there during a very, very difficult time of my childhood. A lot of things that were there. She really kind of looked out, kind of went above and beyond a little bit. But the work that I did from her, I did that. See, you're always looking like, well, I didn't do that. Well, you did. Now, the other side of that is you also don't rely on somebody to do it for you. Okay, this is a little different than the imposter part of it. Don't be like, well, I can't do it. They got to do it for me. No. The person doesn't do therapy for you. The person doesn't go to whatever. They don't go to school for you. No. Okay. But there's a lot of attributional factors that come into play that you just say, well, I couldn't have done that. Well, you know what? Welcome to the world of being a human being. None of us can do stuff on our own. I'm going to do a lot of things on our own, but we can't do everything on our own. We rely upon community or learning and things like that. Yes. But that doesn't mean that the efforts that you're making are any less. So those are two things that contribute to it. Then, of course, you have culture and society. And this is just real talk, right? You have gender stereotypes. You have racial biases. You have a lot of the, hey, conform to how I want you to be. Of course, there's a lot of that comes into play. Let's not pretend that that's not a thing, because it absolutely is. There's still gender biases. There's still racial biases. There's religion biases. There's a lot of biases. You know this, but you can't worry about that either. As far as you can't be like, well, this is going to be harder for me because I'm a woman, or you're whomever, or a person of color. And yeah, it is going to be more difficult, but that doesn't mean that you're not capable. And it doesn't mean that you can't excel like anybody else. And I shouldn't even say like anybody else. You're just as equal as everybody else. But in society's eyes, sometimes you are not. It's ridiculous and it's stupid, but it's facts. And so some of what happens is there's a social thing that comes into play. And then you get in your ego a little bit and you're like, I got to prove myself even more. And now you're getting 67 masters, but then you hate your job. And it goes on and on and on, but we'll dive deeper in that in a minute. And of course, then there's your upbringing, right? Then you have your upbringing, which is always such a joy. It is such a joy. These childhood expectations are put upon you. High achievement, meaning like, oh my God, you're amazing. And high achievement, as you get older, turns into ego. Like it really starts to stroke your ego a little bit. And so let's talk a little bit about that childhood thing. So with childhood expectations, this is where you'll see, again, if you can't do it right, don't do it at all. Oh, you got a 96? That's fine. That's cool. If you'd have studied harder, you'd have gotten 100. Like that's a high achievement. You're always just not enough, right? You're always just right there. That's always a reflection of them, never a reflection of you. Now, you don't know that at 9, 10, 11 years old. You just know I got to do better, I got to do better, I got to do better. You're doing fine. You are doing fine. Somebody is projecting their insecurity and how they see themselves onto you. Again, you don't know that as a child, but I'm telling you where this comes from. So let's dive a little bit deeper. So this also leads to fear of failure. So a big part of imposter syndrome is being afraid of failing. Why are you afraid to fail? I mean, you guys hear me say that failure is spectacular. It is a beautiful, beautiful thing and a pivotal part of success. You cannot have success without failures. Nope, you cannot do that. And if you think you can, that's because you're in perfectionism. Okay, so the fear of failure, that's a pretty obvious one. right? You're like, oh God, okay. Like, I mean, I kind of want to do this, but I think I'm capable. Like, I'm pretty capable of this. Okay. So then you go and you get whatever thing you need for it. And now let's say you are starting your surgeon. You've gone to whole ass medical school. You are a surgeon. You have graduated. You have your credentials. You have everything that you need to go be a surgeon. I don't care how much, you're a resident at first, but you know how you have to intern. You have to kind of like shadow people and kind of learn hands-on, I don't care how much time you've done that and how much time you think, okay, cool, I feel good. The moment that you have to do it out on your own, right? Like you're a big person now. You're a big person now. So now you got to go and do it. Not that you don't think you can't, but there may be a level of nervousness that comes around and says, oh my God, well, what if I mess this up? I understand that you're a surgeon and that would be really bad. But if you put the pressure on yourself that says, well, I am a surgeon. Oh my God, you're going to be crazy. Do what you know that you can do. But the more you worry about the failure, you don't have to just be a surgeon. You could be anybody. All right. You're worrying about the fear of failure. And so what happens is you feel like an imposter because maybe you're not at your best in your head. Maybe you're at a solid 70%, which is perfectly fine. And you feel like it's not enough. Perfectionism. Now you're failing, right? So now you're suddenly failing. And now you feel like, well, I shouldn't even be here because I don't have the credentials. Well, yeah, it doesn't. Listen, schooling is largely BS anyway. But in general, let's say you have your certifications, you've done it. And let's say take the certifications away. Let's say you've been doing it all your life and you know you're really good at it. You're certified in worry, aren't you? You're certified in overthinking, right? You didn't get a degree in that, but you're really good at it. You're really good at it. Didn't say it's productive, but you're really good at it. Okay. So what you have to remember is when you're really good at something, then you still start second guessing yourself at times. And then you're afraid to fail. You're afraid to not be optimum. And that goes heavily into security. Imposter syndrome is always rooted in insecurity. We know this. So then you self-sabotage, you procrastinate, you talk yourself out of everything. A big part of imposter syndrome is self-sabotage. So even though you're there, you're actually looking for your faults and you're not looking at your attributes, right? So take knowledge, take education out for a minute. Like your literal attributes. What are you bringing? Everybody has something that they're bringing to the table. The problem that you have is comparison. We're going to talk about that in a minute. The problem that you have is you think, well, this person does it better. This person does this. Oh my God. Don't ever be a social media person because that will drive you insane. And don't ever even go into the real world because it's not going to be good for you then. Then you're just going to stay in the house. That's unrealistic. You're not going to keep reinventing the wheel. Like everybody wants to put a positive spin on it. I love that. I'm here for it. But you just got to build upon what's already working. And some people have been there before you. And some people have been there after you. And they're just better equipped to handle it in a certain capacity. That's okay. Just because you're not on, optimum speed at, all times does not mean that you don't deserve to be where you are. That's in your head because now you're going back to those societal things or the parental or anybody who raised you things of like, well, I mean, I guess, but if you can't do it right, don't do it at all. Like that's where that's coming from. So that's your fear of failure and your sabotage. Sabotage is procrastination. Sabotage is excuses. Now, this doesn't even have to be out in the real world. This doesn't even have to be just imposter syndrome. This is across the board. Procrastination is so much, and we know psychologically why there's so much procrastination, but there's always a million different reasons. But procrastinating because you're like, well, I know I'm good at it. Like hairdressers, I can tell you when a hairdresser first starts after they get their licensing for hairdressing, styling, a lot of times they're like, oh my God, okay, I hope I do this right. Even though they've done it right. They screwed it up and they've tried it and they messed it up. Now they're gotten better. So they know that they're pretty good at it. You might mess up a color. Yeah, that might happen. Again, perfectionism is a serious main foundation to this imposter syndrome thing. No, because the problem is the next one is comparison, is the comparison. All right, you're looking at somebody who says, okay, you sing better than me. Yes, I will tell you right now, correct. Taylor Swift sings so much better than me. I sound like I'm drowning cats in a bathtub. She does not. So what? You can't be good at everything. You just can't be good at everything. Just because you see somebody, now pull inspiration. Oh, let me tell you, I sound like Taylor Swift in the car. Don't get me wrong. I'm better than her in the car, but in real life, not so much. And I think that that's important. When you put down your ego, which we're going to get to, it's always your ego, and your insecurity and the need to be perfect, and you accept, well, let me not try to be good at everything. Let me look and see what areas am I decent at? What can I take from my past, my experiences, and then turn into something that I know I'm good at? I just started pickleball several months ago. I'm actually getting really good at singles pickleball. Did I start that way? No. Are people better than me? Yes. But I do it because I enjoy it and I'm just improving myself. Same thing with my crochet. I'm not the best crocheter. I'm not the worst crocheter. I'm in there. I didn't, you know what I mean? You start out one way and you're doing it for you. Your issue is that, and that causes a lot of defensiveness, can cause manipulation. Yeah, this imposter syndrome thing can cause manipulation, can cause a lot of things, fear, and it can cause manipulation because in order for you to meet this sort of goal of being /perfect, sometimes you're like, well, if I do this, they'll do this. In turn, I'll be able to achieve this more. I didn't say utilizing people as far as helpful, like, communication and help and stuff like that. I didn't say that. It's for when you try to be sneaky. When you try to be sneaky and you're trying to get your way, because then you're like, well, this is the only way I can do it because I don't have the tools. Well, yeah, you do have the tools. You just might not be the best, and that's okay. The problem is that you're comparing yourself. Pull inspiration. I pull inspiration from people of all ages, younger than me, older than me, my age, everywhere. It can be anywhere. I'm pulling inspiration. I'm always pulling that inspiration. And that doesn't mean I want to be like you, but I want to be like, wow, I've said this to you guys before. I want to be, unless you hire me to come in and do something where I'm supposed to be the most knowledgeable in the room, or at least a good amount of knowledge, I don't want to be the most knowledgeable one. I want to go in hardly knowing anything so I can absorb. A perfect example, this football thing, right? Been a football fan all my life, been a Cowboy fan all my life. Understanding the behind the scenes, from talking to Cooper and then other people, oh, well, okay, it's such a business. And then you learn more about it. And you do all of that. And I'm like, wow. I mean, I know what I know. I know the rules of football. I'm pretty knowledgeable in football. Nothing like I thought the behind the scenes. I had none of that knowledge. So what did I do? I kept asking questions. Oh, really? Well, what does it mean when this? Oh, really? So when you get this, then what do you do? Okay, so when you're in different locations, I'm going to ask you a million questions. And I'm asking because I want to learn. I want to be a sponge from you and anybody else around me. But you have to be okay with doing that. Because in order for you to learn, you must accept that you don't know everything. Right? I got a lot of years underneath my belt from mindfulness, meditations, all those things. And I still have dozens and dozens of years to keep learning, right? You should never, ever feel as though you're the best, because there's always somebody coming. There's always somebody who around the corner will probably be a little bit better than you, and that's okay. That doesn't mean that you can't contribute. The problem is that you are looking and then you're jealous, and jealousy is a massive piece of imposter syndrome. It really is. Right? And so you think that you're some fraud or some person because you're not operating at the 100% of everybody else. You're trying to be perfect, and all of these things come into play. And it really goes into, like I said, it could be your upbringing. It could be mom's voice. You could still be trying to prove people right. So because you just didn't do it at 100%, well, then you suck. So I suck at it. I shouldn't be here. Why? Why not? Based on what fact? What fact do you have that you shouldn't be there? Right? You should always be growing. So you got to be somewhere. You can't just live nowhere, in your mind. You know what I mean? And another thing that happens is then you start underestimating your abilities. You're like, yeah, again, I've used this example. If a plumber comes to my house, I don't want you to stand there and be super, well, I'm kind of good. Yeah, I am. I've done really good work. What is that? I don't want that. If that comes here, I'm not hiring you. I want you to come in and let me know, yeah, man, I got this. And you know what? If you mess it up and you say, oh, man, I'm going to have to get another part because I messed this up. Okay. I don't think that you're any less qualified. You're a human being and you made a mistake and then you confidently own it. Oh, I'm going to hire you again. It will definitely happen. So you have to understand confidence also is going to come, and underestimating your abilities isn't going to help. Just because you're like, well, yeah, I'm kind of good, or I'm not sure. You're doing that as a fail-safe again. You're afraid to fail. You're afraid to worry about all those things. That's what's happening. That's why you're underestimating, and you have a hard time celebrating your achievements. So if I award you with something now, hey, great job. Or even, I can even say that even in the practice that I do. If I'm like, wow, I'm really seeing some growth here. And then you go, well, I mean, not really. I mean, I still have so much more to go. I mean, I've heard that a million times. In the beginning, I don't hear it too much in the end because then people are more confident. But yeah, you're still fine. You got up, you brushed your teeth. Oh my God, what a successful day that was. Your problem is that you want it to be bigger and broader and like everybody else around the block. And you cannot do that. And it's like when you're avoiding recognition, like if somebody's like, oh my God, you look so good today, and you don't know how to take a compliment, you're almost like, oh, thanks. Like, I mean, my hair's kind of okay today. Like, you're like, what? Stop. So now we have to talk about like this downplaying thing. You got to stop downplaying. And again, problematic growing up as a child. Hey, don't get too like verbose with don't get too conceited with it. Conceitedness is not believing that you're good enough, but yet trying to prove that you're better than everybody else. That's what conceited is. Confidence is, I'm very good at my job. I am. I'm very good at my job. That's confidence. Very good at my job. Okay, if somebody considers that conceited, that's because they're not in the space to be confident in something. So don't let your confidence or the fear of like, well, I don't know about this. Don't let that stop you. So if you've done something good, celebrate it. No, everybody doesn't need to celebrate it for you. Just keep those expectations in check. Everybody doesn't need to celebrate everything that you do and make sure that that a boy, oh my God, what an amazing job. Calm down. You're doing it for you. Now I want to talk to you about the ego role in this. Your lovely ego plays so many roles in so many things because that's who we are. When you have a fragile ego, these are the people who get their feelings hurt a lot. They take everything personal. They get super defensive, fragile ego. Or let's say they start something. Let's say they start crochet because I crochet. And then they say to me, oh my gosh, look, hey, what do you think of this? Okay, now you're asking my opinion. What do I think of this? I didn't unsolicitedly give it to you. And I look and I go, oh my God, that looks really good for the first time. So your edges are not even. So you want to make sure that, your count, and then I start trying to give advice because that's what they want. Or you think that that's what they want. And then they're like, well, I just started. Okay, then don't get defensive with me. Don't ask me things. Then that means that you don't really want to know where to improve because your ego just got a little bruised because you thought, I did amazing for my first time. You did. But then you had a hard time taking the criticism for it. Oh, you see that a lot as an author because I'm writing my book. Everybody thinks that they can write a book. And by the way, everybody can write a book, but it's not on the, it's not nowhere near as easy as you think. You got to brainstorm, you got to dump down, you got to reanalyze, there's a process to it. A lot of people will not write a book because they are afraid that they're not going to be readable. Even if one person reads it, even if nobody reads it, you're doing it for you. And hopefully somebody else benefits from it. But again, your fragile ego doesn't want to be told no, doesn't want to be told, hey, here's some critique. Nope. It wants to be like, well, that's fine. Okay, fine. I don't want to do that. Okay. That's how you know you have a fragile ego. And that will come from imposter syndrome because you already feel some kind of way about feeling like you're not qualified or not enough or whatever. So when someone else just points out some constructive criticism, then you flip out because your ego is like, no. And ego is big in comparison, right? Because, oh my God, ego is the foundation of comparison. Well, I'm good enough. Okay, be good enough. Well, you don't have to beat somebody else. Everybody, there's room for us all. Yay. But you can't do that. You can't sit there and don't ever tear anybody else down either. Don't look for their shortcomings. Just go, hey, okay, I might do things differently. Great. So now you're doing things different. Beautiful. Doesn't mean the other person's wrong. You're just doing it differently. And that's why the perfectionism for you can go into a little bit of competition in a game that you're playing by yourself. I will let you in every time. You want to be better at me? Go ahead. I don't care. I'm not doing it to beat you. I'm only ever in competition with myself to be better than I was yesterday. Never in competition with anybody. Because I'm going to be here for the people who want me. And if you don't, that's okay. Remember this rule of thumb. If you try to be everywhere, you're nowhere. And if you try to be everything to everybody, you're nobody to anybody. And that's just a fact. Right? So you have to know that going into it. And then a big part of your ego is that protection of self-image. This is where you see people want to go to battle if they're in a smear campaign, if they're doing all of that, because you feel like an imposter in something, but then you don't, like you know you're good and you know you contribute a lot, but maybe. And then, so you're doing this back and forth thing and you're push and pulling, but that's what's happening. That's where imposter syndrome comes in at. So what you do is we got to have to really work on this perfectionism. We got to get you to the space. And again, you can always book something private, but like, my goodness, you have got to understand it's okay for people to be disappointed in you. It's okay to not know something and ask somebody for something. Okay. So let's say I bring you on board. Let's say I'm going to hire you to do something for me. I don't know, content, whatever. Okay. And I show you how I like things done. Like, hey, this is what works for me. And then you forget. I don't know. You forget. You're new. It's a lot of information. And I say to you, hey, you know what? I think I'm going to do like 6 of these videos, whatever. And now, mind you, you're still trying to figure out one, but you are going to make sure that you do the best. You are going to be perfect at this. And you tell me, okay, sure. Okay. Just tell me what you need. Send me the content and I'll edit it. Okay. I don't know that you need help. So I'm going to send it to you. Now, mind you, you didn't say you needed help because you didn't understand something. You're trying so hard to wing it so somebody doesn't look at you like you don't know what you're doing. Guess what? You're a human being. And if somebody's going to judge you because you are, now, preferably we don't want to keep repeating the same thing over and over again for months on end. Then it's going to be like, okay, is it a learning style? Is this a good fit? Like, yes, okay, we do have to look at that, correct. But my goodness, it's okay. I would rather you say, hey, I would love to do that for you. I'm really struggling with understanding how to do A, B, and C. Great. I'm glad you told me. Let me talk to you through it. Let me talk you through it because it doesn't benefit me or you if you're telling me you can do something you can't do because you're too concerned about not being perfect. You're too concerned about not being judged. You're too concerned about beating somebody else. See, so there's a combination of things. That's all imposter syndrome all in one thing. Boop. Comparison, fear of failure, perfectionism, wanting to not have people upset with you because they think you're stupid, and yet you want to be the best and you want to beat out everybody else, even if they came to the company after you did. Stop. You're on your own trajectory. You're on your own path. You are not on everybody else's path. You deserve to be where you are. If you do something good, celebrate it for yourself. Somebody says, great job, say thank you. Not, well, thanks. I mean, sorry, I should have gotten to you earlier. What the hell is that? Oh, thank you. I own it. Confidence. And that will come with self-esteem. That will come with your consistency. It will also come when you start doing things and not procrastinating, believe it or not. Because a lot of times you feel like you're a fraud or whatever because you're showing one person one thing and then at home you're not practicing what you're preaching. So then you feel fake. Well, because in a way there is a fakeness there. So you're like, yeah, okay, that's great. I want to be better and I want to do these things. And then you go home and then you're staring at the TV for 12 hours. Words and actions are not aligning. It doesn't matter. That doesn't make you a bad person, by the way. You're fine. You're fine. But then you say that to yourself because you feel like you're not being honest. Nobody really cares if you make your goals, right? It's up to you to feel that you need to care to make your goals. And sometimes you have to be pretty ruthless in doing so. That's where the boundaries come into play. That's when pulling your bootstraps up and getting things done adequately, not perfectly. There's zero gold standard for perfection. Perfection is fake, fake, fake. There is zero gold standard for perfectionism. So as you do this and you make little progresses and then you mess it up and then you learn from it, well, that's something to celebrate. Not, well, I shouldn't have messed that up in the first place. Why not? Why? Oh, because you're never supposed to mess up. Cool. Okay. Well, you're going to have a very, very, very isolated life. Okay. Oh, you messed up. You mean that you learned something from it and you got more knowledge? Oh my God, how successful is that? That's great. That's what you have to celebrate. But very often you're not looking at any achievements, as small as they may be. There's still an achievement. You're not accepting your achievements. You're not sitting with your achievements and embracing the fact that you just achieved something. Because you might want the fanfare. You might want the extra. You might want that, wow, look at how great I did. Listen, we all go through perfectionism to some level. It's just when you say, okay, what can I do that's going to work for me? What system works for me? Not what system works for everybody else. And my mom is coming over and my house has to be meticulous. Why? Do you live in a model home or do you live there? Oh, mom's going to come in complaining? Then mom doesn't need to come visit. Period. Why would you want somebody in your house who you got to worry about what they're thinking and like, Well, then why you got them coming into your house? Why do you want somebody like that around you, period? So I want you to realize that a couple things as we come to the conclusion of this, and we're going to talk a little bit deeper and over on the other side on Patreon with the worksheet, is you got to accept that it's okay to just be good at what you're doing. It's okay to give. And what I mean by just be good is give the best you got. Now, don't feel like, well, I'm not allowed to ask for help because then they're going to think I don't know. You don't know. What do you mean they're going to think you don't know? Because you don't. Well, I don't want them to think I don't know. You don't know. What do you mean? Why would you not? You're lying to yourself. So now you will feel like a fake and phony person, like you're scamming your way to the job. So I want you to be aware of that and know that we know why. Maybe it was your upbringing. Maybe it was society. Maybe it's an attributional factor. Maybe it's your perfectionism, but whatever it is, this is for you to address. And you're going to go forward and you're going to go backwards on your healing journey. You're going to kill it one day. You're going to be like, oh my God, I'm the best. And the next day you're going to be like, holy hell, where did that come from? That's worse than I ever was. Great. So I really want you to understand that, because if you are trying anything else, you got to be careful too, because you're going to carry all of this as a projection. You're going to project this out on other people. And what does that mean? You're going to be low vibrational. High vibrational people don't not like you. They're just not going to have you in their space. And that's fine. It doesn't mean that you're less than. It means that everybody who's high vibrational has been low vibrational multiple times and will be multiple more times. But so with the vibrational patterns being so like delicate, yeah, you got to protect it at all costs. So with that being said, remember, baby, you're good enough. Keep working ahead, but look at your accomplishments, baby steps. Chill on the perfectionism. Stop rushing the game. Don't worry about who's doing what on Instagram and Facebook and what your sister just did. They are not you. You do not have to outdo them. If you feel the need to prove somebody wrong, if you feel the need to be right, you are in an extremely low vibrational pattern and you need to get it under control. So you need to sit with it and say, what is it that I'm so nagging and negative about? And is it because I'm trying to be something I'm not? Or is it because I think I'm supposed to be more than I am? But when you get those celebrations, celebrate them as high as you can. Why? Because you are definitely qualified to celebrate.